Intellectual Property is proudly brought to you by Adams & Adams, rooted in 100 years of excellence in intellectual property law.
Hello and welcome to the Intellectual Property Show. I'm Stefan Lamprecht. Google is a multi-billion-dollar global phenomenon with more than 90% of the South African internet search market alone. In true David and Goliath style, Intelligence, a Cape Town-based web company, is taking on Google for alleged anti-competitive behavior. To talk about the Competition Act and the work of the Competition Commission, I have in the studio Bruce Lister from Adams & Adams, as well as Sean Riley, CEO of Intelligence. Good day, gentlemen. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Stefan.
Sean, let's start off with you. Just firstly, what is Intelligence? What do you do?
We were established in 1999. We do web development and online marketing, which encompasses paid advertising as well as improving the natural rankings of our clients online.
Okay. And tell us about the Google incident. What's happening?
Well, it's been fun and games. As you've probably seen that we were awarded the online marketing contract with Yellow Pages in June. And during that time, something that happened is Google interfered with our accounts. They altered cost per click without our approval or authorization, which effectively skewed the costs, and we corrected it within a day. But we were obviously quite unhappy about that, and we escalated it within Google and didn't get much of a response back. And then later on, we discovered that Google was actually pitching for the Yellow Pages accounts. The MD of Yellow Pages has asked Google to respect our agreement in place with Yellow Pages and not to interfere. But Google has told us directly that they want that business, that they don't respect our agreement with Yellow Pages, and they've now shut down one account, and the next account shuts down shortly, completely preventing us from being able to service Yellow Pages.
And then what did you do in terms of dealing with this situation?
Well, we have gone through, obviously, any kind of legal action against someone who's quite key to our business is a last resort. We have tried to mediate the situation. I flew to Dublin. I met with Google Ireland. We've tried to create a dialogue, and we haven't been very successful at that, to the point where we've now had to file a complaint with the Competition Commission of South Africa. Okay.
Bruce, talking about the anti-competitive behavior and so forth, Competition Commission brought in place to look after the interests of all stakeholders. What is it more or less about? How do they operate?
The Competition Tribunal is a body that was set up in terms of the Competition Act. People are entitled to lodge complaints if they feel there's been a breach of one of the provisions of the Competition Act. Typically, the Competition Act would deal with horizontal behavior between vendors, vertical behavior, and then, in this case, perhaps an abuse of a dominant position. The Competition Act is there to stimulate competition in the marketplace. Everyone recognises, the courts also recognise, that competition is very important for a healthy economy, and the Competition Act and the Tribunal are one way in which that health can be protected.
So if you think, often you hear about, especially new startup enterprises saying, but we want to enter into a new supply chain, or a supply chain that is very dominant, it's got dominant players. The big companies, how do I get into it? Well, the Competition Act says, but you can lodge a complaint if you believe that you are not afforded an equal opportunity to show what you can do. Is that more or less the case?
Well, yes, and that would be a Section 8 transgression in the event of there being an abuse by a dominant firm. It's worth mentioning that the Competition Act probably echoes certain provisions in the intellectual property statutes. For example, the Patents Act is a whole Section 90, which prevents abuse by dominant players. So the Competition Act is not the only route to follow in the case of IP, but okay, it's one of the ways.
But give us an example, a practical example from the Intellectual Property Act point of view in terms of looking after such anti-competitive incidents.
Well, say, for example, a company has a patent which could be used, for example, as an AIDS vaccine or AIDS health mechanism, and they're not doing so for whatever reason. The Competition Act may be a route to follow to force that company into a compulsory license. The Patent Act has a similar provision, but at least you've got a second door through which you can try to get through to force that company to release that patent and that technology into the market for the benefit of the public as a whole.
Okay. Sean, from your point of view, just take us through the process that you had to engage with in lodging this complaint with the Commission Tribunal.
Well, it's been fairly straightforward. We've met with our attorneys and advocates to draft our official complaint. From what I understand, it's quite important to make sure that you get all the facts right in that complaint. In our situation, the Google AdWords system used for managing ads is a fairly complex subject matter, so there's also a responsibility to explain the situation in layman's terms, so that so that it can be handled practically by the Competition Commission.
Because obviously these guys are not. I mean, they're not subject matter experts.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then taking it further, what is the situation? You obviously had to take money. You can't just lodge a complaint. You've got to actually put down money as well. Is that correct?
Well, no. You have to pay your attorneys. So you have your own legal costs, but there's no cost on actually filing a complaint.
Okay.
And the process now is they've recognised the complaint, and we're waiting to hear back from them. Hopefully within the next few days about what the next steps will be.
Okay. Bruce, from your point of view, I mean, if they make a finding, is that enforceable, or is it a recommendation?
No, it's an enforceable finding. The Competition Tribunal has extensive authority, and it will be an enforceable finding. It will be very similar to a court ruling.
Okay. So they could theoretically say, well, on the one side, we believe that, from Sean's point of view, Google is in the right, carry on business as usual, or they can say to Google, for example, you cannot have this kind of behavior. You've got to honor the agreements as they are, and you've got to back off that kind of behavior. Is that more or less the kind of findings they make?
Yes. I don't know the facts of the specific case in any detail at all, except what we've heard now, but that would certainly be the type of finding that they find. They find in favour of one party or another.
Okay. Very good. Sean, from your point of view, what are you going to do going further from this?
Well, yeah, we'll have to see what happens and how fast the Competition Commission acts. But we are adamant to try and set some form of precedent in South Africa at the very least. There are a lot of companies like ourselves who've helped make Google strong in their absence.
So you went out and you basically created this, call it interest in the South African market, put South African market on the map to some extent.
Absolutely.
And now overseas players are coming in saying that we want to deal with these people directly because there's opportunity.
And even that, although that doesn't sit so well, even that I wouldn't view as a huge problem for Google to just say we're going to compete with you for business. But in this particular instance, what they've actually done is they've inhibited our ability to compete, which and I think that's the key to that's a key message we're trying to deal with.
Okay. As a final question to you, other entrepreneurs out there, would you recommend a similar course of action? The process going further, was it easy to engage with these people?
With the Competition Commission?
That's right.
Well, so far so good. I don't think it's something that you can undertake lightheartedly, but it is certainly it's in place to protect the little guys and to protect us from abuse of dominant positions. So in many cases, it is certainly the most cost-effective route. Because I think most of the dominant players in the industry do depend on the fact that the small guys can't afford traditional legal channels.
Okay. Thank you very much, Sean, for joining me in the studio tonight. Best wishes, and I hope there's a finding that works for everybody. And also, Bruce, thanks for joining me again here in the studio. That's all we've got time for tonight. Until next week, from me, Stefan Lamprecht. Good evening.
Intellectual Property was proudly brought to you by Adams and Adams, rooted in 100 years of excellence in intellectual property law.